PlayStation may have just been caught scamming their most loyal customers, and the worst part is that you will never know if this is happening to you. It's almost like Sony saw Xbox and Nintendo getting all of this hate for their greedy, profit-driven strategies and said, hey, dang, that's a good idea, we gotta get in on this. Listen, I wish I were kidding, folks, but Sony may have just figured out a new way to charge you more than everyone else, and honestly, this might be one of their most anti-consumer practices yet. In fact, when I first found out about this morning, I wasn't even sure if this was illegal. I had to do research to see if they're even allowed to do this. So today we're going to take a deep dive into PlayStation's latest scam and figure out what exactly is going on here. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. Now, really quick, I hate that I even have to say this, but I know the PlayStation fanboys are going to dislike bomb this video because I dare to say anything critical about their favorite gaming company. So if you end up enjoying the video, consider dropping a thumbs up. It's going to help me fight those guys off. All right, let's jump right in here. This was just posted over on The Gamer. You might be seeing discounts others don't in the PlayStation Store. Dynamic pricing is a controversial, still relatively new system that allows the prices of things like concert tickets and hotel rooms to change depending on outside factors, most notably demand. Everyone knows this, right? A hotel room is going to be cheaper on a Wednesday night than that exact same hotel room on a Saturday night when there's a concert in town. Everybody can understand this pricing strategy and why it exists. We're going to talk more about that pricing strategy and where it might be illegal later in this video, so stay tuned. But the article goes on to say it's not something that has made its way into gaming yet, although further evidence has surfaced suggesting it's something PlayStation has been experimenting with. Accusations suggesting the PlayStation Store uses dynamic pricing have surfaced again. That's right, again, folks. We'll talk about that later on. Thanks to a post shared on the PlayStation subreddit, the OP claims they have noticed a price discrepancy between their own PlayStation account and their wife's when attempting to buy Red Dead Redemption 2. So let's just hop over to Reddit and see what exactly is going on here. Okay, this user says, was excited to finally purchase until I realized the price was lower on my wife's account. And here you can see a screenshot of the price comparison between Red Dead Redemption 2 Ultimate Edition on their account versus on their wife's account, and it's clear as day. On this user's account it is $20 with an 80% discount, and on their wife's account it is $15 with an 85% discount. They go on to say, my wife doesn't play much, and so buying it on her account may not be the best decision to keep everything easily accessible for me. Seeing this soured me on buying it quite a bit. Now, I will say that I'm pretty sure as long as you're both logged into the same PlayStation, even with different accounts, I'm pretty sure if you download the game with one user, the other user can play it. You guys can let me know if that's wrong, but I'm almost positive that back when I lived with my buddy, he actually bought Call of Duty, and I'm pretty sure I was able to just play it on my account. But they go on to say, and for reference, same region, same PlayStation, same currency, etc. That is insane. And honestly, I wasn't even sure if this was legal. And by the way, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal professional, I am just top 3 biggest goofballs on YouTube. I'm just reporting what I'm seeing here on the internet. Okay, nothing in this video is legal advice. But what I started to think about was, what is the difference between dynamic pricing and literally just price discrimination, right? Like actually discriminating against different users depending on who they are as a person. Because as we can see here, it might be the case that this user's wife, as they say, doesn't play the console that much, so for her they actually gave her a better deal because they're hoping that, you know, hey, she's never really opening the PlayStation Store, this is our one chance to secure a sale. If it means we get $15 instead of 20, then so be it, we'll take the $15 because she might not open up the store again for 6 months, right? So a logical assumption is that they're showing her a better discount because she doesn't play as much, right? Which means the flip side of that coin is that you, as a loyal customer who plays and boots up your PlayStation every day or every other day when you get home from work, you are a loyal fan who is always part of that ecosystem, and they do not have an incentive to show you the best deal because they know that you like playing PlayStation and you're gonna keep coming back and you're gonna buy the game regardless, so why give you the best deal, right? That really rubs me the wrong way, and it's honestly disgusting. But what I'm wondering here is, you know, okay, I think it's a fair assumption to make that maybe she's getting a better deal here because she plays it less, but how do we know that? We don't actually know that. You could almost just as easily assume that PlayStation or Sony, whatever algorithm they have for these sorts of things, is looking at the data that it's collecting about its users and saying, hey, look, Red Dead Redemption 2 is purchased 92% of the time by men. I just made that number up. That is just I'm using this as an example, right? But it could argue that, okay, if a vast majority of people who buy this game are men, what if we give a better deal to women? That way more women end up buying the game, right? Well, would that be illegal? I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm almost positive that you are not allowed to give somebody a higher price based on a protected class. Protected classes being things like your race, your gender, sexual orientation, things like that. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so anybody who has a legal background can chime in the comment section below. But if that were the case, which I'm not saying it is, I'm just hypothesizing here because PlayStation is not transparent with this pricing strategy. But if it were the case that they were offering his wife, a woman, a lower price because she's a woman, therefore a higher price to the husband because he's a man, I'm pretty sure that would be illegal. Now, who knows? We have no idea. In fact, we don't even know if this is real. Let me just be abundantly clear here. This is a post on Reddit. Okay, people do lie on the internet for upvotes. I know it's insane, I know it's crazy, people do it, and this did get 5.2 thousand upvotes. I will say though, I mean, this user's been around for 9 years. They're a top 5% poster, top 1% poster. I really don't think that this user has any sort of incentive to lie here, right? Like, it doesn't seem like, I mean, like, what would their motivation be, right? Like, I guess you could argue up votes, but like, it's not like they're getting paid to do this. So I just want to be very clear here, right? Like, this is simply a screenshot. Okay, so we don't really know for sure. It's really hard to pin this down, and that's why I said earlier in the video that you will never know if this is happening to you, because they could be constantly offering these good deals to other customers and other players, and it could be for one day only, and by the time you get wind of it, there's no screenshots, there's no evidence, you don't really know. The deal's over, the deal's gone, right? And so you have no idea. And also, if it's showing these good deals to people who are barely using PlayStation, they're not likely to post this on Reddit. They're not likely to even know that this is a thing. I'm going to use my girlfriend as an example here. Okay, she recently ended up buying Digimon Story Time Stranger, but she is more of a casual gamer, right? I think even she would agree with this. She's probably watching, so if you disagree, you can come beat me up. Okay, but really, I think she only buys a handful of games every year, right? Like maybe like 2 games a year, 3 games, like it's really not that much. So for her, if she were offered a deal, whether it's on Amazon or on her Nintendo Switch or whatever, I don't know if she would really necessarily even know that she was getting a deal, right? Because she's not seeing these game prices fluctuate in real time week after week. She would just be like, oh, look, the game's 85% off. Cool. Buys the game. That's it. Plays the game. It doesn't matter. And I think most casual players are like that, right? Like most consumers aren't going to question the deal that they're getting. They're just getting a deal. That's fantastic, right? So all of that to say, I know I'm ranting and I'm going off on a tangent here, but all of that to say, first of all, technically this is just a screenshot, so we don't actually have any more evidence than this unless other people come forward with their screenshots or video recordings, or if PlayStation comes out and makes a statement about this. So we don't actually know if this is technically real. There could be something weird going on here that the user doesn't know about. And 2, even if this is real, we don't know why his wife is getting a better deal here. All we can do is speculate. But one thing that is for sure is that this is not the first time that Sony and PlayStation have been accused of a disgusting, scummy practice like this, because basically 1 year ago, in fact, it was on November 8th, 2024, so almost exactly a year ago to the day, we see this post over on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. They said Sony is possibly experimenting with dynamic game pricing. In a rather odd turn of events, the PlayStation Store may be rolling out dynamic pricing for certain games. Specifically, Astrobot appears to be the target of this experiment. I first noticed that the game was discounted a few days ago on the mobile app. I was surprised that this sale was not advertised on major video game websites. Curious, I went onto my browser and searched for the game on the PlayStation Store while still being signed out. It was $60. I signed in and it appeared to be $44.99. My investigation led me to a Reddit post, see below, that revealed other users are experiencing discounts for the game ranging from 5 to 25%. The question is how this discount is being determined. I have maxed out PlayStation stars, so I asked a friend who has not opted in. Their listed price was $60. This is far from a confirmation, but represents a possibility. We will have to wait and see if this is a fluke or if Sony plans to expand this practice in the future. And if we go over to this other post here, this was on the PlayStation 5 subreddit literally exactly 1 year ago today. They said already a 20% discount for Astrobot. Currently on the PlayStation Store, it is 20% cheaper. Really surprised it's on sale already and for a decent amount. I would highly recommend playing with our robot mascot at this lower price than they they edited the post and said the amount of the discount is fluctuating for many. I'm currently in the US if that matters. And then if we scroll down here, we actually see people showing some evidence. So this person says, where is it for sale at? It's still full price on the PlayStation store for me. OP responds with a screenshot saying that it is $47.99 for them. Okay, so we actually have from OP a screenshot proving that this is real. This person laughs and cries in Australian, showing that it is actually full price for them. That is awful. That's $72 USD, by the way. This user shares a screenshot from New Zealand. This is about $75 US. And like, look, this isn't a big deal, right? They always have different prices depending on the region. That's nothing new. That's not really what we're talking about here. What we're talking about in this video is users like this who share a screenshot also from the US Central. Okay, so they're in like the Midwest or something. I have no idea. They said it is $44.99 for regular, $52.49 for deluxe. Didn't get a wish list notification or anything. So here you can see it is a 25% discount for this user and a 20% discount for this user, both of which are in the United States. And then I know it's hard to see, but somebody actually responded to this 25% discount and said, this is weird. Different regions or midday while everything is updating is understandable, but this just makes no sense. I can only assume this is some type of mistake or glitch, as it would be very bizarre for such a highly successful game to have this much of a discount already. And then in their screenshot, they show that it is also full price. Okay, so we have this user who is US Central and this user who's also US Central. He's getting it for 25% off. This user's paying full price. They're in the same time zone, and this reply is about 30 minutes after this user posted their screenshot, right? So a 30-minute time difference could make a difference, right? Like maybe it was a glitch and they changed it and fixed it, but then this user from Seattle shows that they're getting a 5% discount. Okay, so there is a crazy amount of evidence here. These are just Reddit posts, by the way, so I can't prove anything, but at a certain point it's like, okay, we've got all these people saying the exact same thing with all these screenshots. Are all these people just lying, or is it like, I mean, come on, it's probably the case that they were experimenting with variable pricing with Astrobot last year. And so now when we look back at this user's post from yesterday talking about a price discrepancy between their account and their wife's account, it seems to be the case that maybe we can just chalk this up to dynamic pricing, right? Variable pricing depending on the user. So now we have multiple examples of Sony attempting this pricing strategy, which I think it's just greedy, it's scummy, it's kind of gross, right? I mean, it does not cost you more money to sell this user a digital game. Does that make sense? Like there's fundamentally no difference in the experience that either of these users are getting. The wife is getting it for 15, the husband's getting it for 20. It's not like his is going to download faster, right? It's not like it's going to perform better. There's literally no, I genuinely, there's no difference here, right? If one was a physical game and the other was a digital game, then you could make the argument that like, okay, well, physical's got a case and they got to ship it, so like, okay, they're going to charge you more. That's fine, right? But if we're looking at all else things exactly equal, the only conclusion that I can come to is that they are trying to scam this guy out of an extra $5 because they think that they can get away with it because he is a loyal customer who is constantly playing games. He maybe has a history of buying games for $20 and they know they can get him for another 20, right? Maybe he's looked up Red Dead Redemption 2 multiple times in the past, maybe in the past month or in the last year. They know that this is a user who is ready and willing and excited to play Red Dead Redemption, and so they're going to show him a discount that is really good, but they're going to bump it up by $5 because they know that he's still likely to buy it, right? And that's just disgusting, right? It's literally, you're just nickel and diming people, and you're doing it in a way where you're not even giving them a better experience, right? You're charging them more for the exact same thing. Let's see what the Reddit thread has to say about this. The top comment, no surprise, is this needs to be illegal, and someone responds saying I thought it was. Another user says it is in some places, not in others. Let me guess, America. Exactly. Now later in the video I'm going to touch more on the legality of this because we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I do want to expand more later in the video. Okay, but let's go on to see what other users have to say. This person says freedom to gouge your customers. This is legal in the US to the surprise of absolutely no one. Lol, I wonder if Americans ever get bored of getting a raw deal on every single topic from healthcare to consumer rights. We don't know any better. It's just part of the experience. And this is, if I can just rant for just a brief moment, okay, this is the entire point of the videos I've been making on this channel for the last couple of months, right? People come in and they think, oh, he's a Nintendo grifter, even though I have Xbox videos and I have videos talking about Apple with their latest iPhone, and we have this video talking about PlayStation, and I talked about the whole issue going on with Roblox, which you guys didn't even see because that video didn't get as many views. People can say, oh, he's a Nintendo grifter. No, there's a very clear message. At least I think it's clear. Maybe I'm not delivering this message effectively, but the point is these gaming companies are screwing the consumer, and that's you watching, and a lot of people don't even know it. That's the point of these videos. People are starting to learn more about how you're actually getting screwed. I made a big deal about the Pokemon Legends EA thing because that is literally the most profitable franchise in the entire history of entertainment, and they can only manage to scrape together 13 million to serve up some more slop for their consumers. Gamers are getting screwed, and this is another example, and I have no problem calling out any gaming company that's doing this. It just so happens to be that Nintendo's in the headlines a lot lately because of their lawsuit with Palworld and because they just released a brand new system, so they are the most relevant right now. But when Xbox does something scummy that hurts the consumer, I'll make a video about it. When PlayStation does something scummy that hurts the consumer, I'll make a video about it. Anyway, rant over. Let's go on and see what more Reddit users have to say here. Travel companies have been doing this for years. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Considering Amazon has been legally doing this for years, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, especially when you know these companies will do anything to pressure its customers to buy more. Of course they will do anything to pressure customers to spend more money, but they will also spend millions of dollars lobbying politicians to make sure that the people in office are not going to vote against them doing these types of practices. That's the most disgusting part about all of this. I don't want to get too deep into politics here because I don't typically cover that on the channel. I'm not super interested in what your politics are in the comment section below, but we can all agree that like these big corporations are spending millions of dollars to fuck over the consumer. I'm pretty sure that's a non-partisan issue, right? Like we can all get behind that. Like we can all agree that we're getting fucked, right? Like let's just be real here. This user says Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation on rare occasions offer targeted discounts either to encourage users to play more or to try a genre they otherwise have no interest in. These offers should not be confused with the exploitative time-based pricing supermarkets are trying to introduce. On what basis should discounts be illegal? I'll tell you what basis it should be illegal. Okay, if you're offering two customers the exact same product or service at the exact same time where supply and demand are not an issue, you should not be allowed to charge them two different prices. I mean, what are we talking about? Imagine driving a 2005 conversion van. Okay, you get 14 miles to the gallon, you pull into the gas station, and for you the price of gas is $3.50, but for the Honda Civic next to you it's $2.89, right? It's not a supply and demand issue. I mean, you arrived at the exact same time, the amount of gas in the tank is exactly the same, but they know that they can get you for more money because your gas tank is probably bigger in that van. It should be illegal, right? And I mean, as far as I know, I don't think any gas stations do that. You can let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but like in the same vein as that, I'm using that as an example to say that there is fundamentally no difference between allowing the husband versus the wife to download the exact same game at the exact same time. Why is he getting charged $5 more? It makes no sense. I feel like anyone who thinks about this logically for 2 seconds should agree that of course this should be illegal, right? Of course it should be illegal. And I'd even go as far as to say it shouldn't be illegal to offer discounts based on supply and demand, right? Like I said earlier with the hotel example, of course it makes sense to offer different prices at different times of year, different times of the month, different times of the week, right? It makes sense. But we're talking about a digital game download. This is literally just data, right? Like this, you can download this game 50 billion times and it's going to be an exact carbon copy. It's just ones and zeros. It's not like the master copy of the game is being degraded if more and more people download it, right? It's not a finite resource. This user says it is illegal and it's called price discrimination. They come up with the term targeted pricing so it sounds different, but it is in fact price discrimination. This user says I'm sure Sony had an entire floor worth of lawyers making sure it was legal before they did it. I also completely agree with this. Again, we'll talk about this in just a second, but this person says we can still be outraged when something legal is immoral. Yes, exactly. You hit the nail right on the head here. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean we should accept it as consumers, especially when it seems to be the case that the loyal consumers are the ones being targeted with the higher prices. Now again, because Sony doesn't tell us why this user allegedly has a lower price, we are forced to come to conclusions all on our own, and I do think it is most likely the case that because the wife doesn't access the store often, doesn't play as much, maybe hasn't tried the genre of game, maybe hasn't googled this game came recently, they'll offer her a bigger discount. I think that's logical, but that doesn't mean we should accept this. Okay, now this user says price discrimination amongst consumers is not illegal in the United States unless it is based on protected characteristics. This user further elaborates, price discrimination is not illegal. That would mean senior discounts were illegal, which they aren't. Great point there, right? I used to work at a movie theater, and back then, I know I'm going to date myself here, but I'm pretty sure full price midday tickets for a movie were like $11 or $12, but if you were over like 60 or something like that, it was $9. Okay, and I remember on Tuesdays we would always get all these old ladies and old men coming in, and they'd come and watch whatever the newest movies were. It was kind of, I liked that. I thought that job was cool. I liked that job. But anyway, let's talk about whether or not this is actually illegal. Okay, and I do want to remind you guys, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, and I do not know what I'm talking about. This is just my best understanding of what exactly is going on here. But in the United States, here is my understanding. Okay, it is legal for your business to have variable or dynamic pricing if you base this pricing on supply and demand, right? A good example of this would be surge pricing for Uber. Okay, so if you guys don't use Uber, there is sometimes, I live in New York City. Okay, so sometimes if you're, it's 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday, everyone's getting off work, they want to Uber home, there might be surge pricing where, okay, everyone just ordered an Uber and there's only a certain number of drivers, so they're going to raise the price. One thing that I ran into all the time is I would go to a concert with my buddies on a Saturday night, okay, and we would get out of Brooklyn Mirage at like 3 a.m, and everyone in that small area of Brooklyn is suddenly calling an Uber because you can't drive. I guess you technically could, but if you know anything about the venue, it sucks to park around there. And okay, anyway, an Uber that would normally cost me like 25 bucks would suddenly be $80. I'm not even kidding, right? Because it's 3 a.m, there's not that many Uber drivers, and all of a sudden, 1,000 people want to call an Uber all at the same time. So it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to offer surge pricing. And I think that that's fair, right? I think it's fine. Like, how else are you going to determine who gets the ride, right? I mean, is it just first come first serve? As long as the Uber drivers get an increased fare, then I think that it makes sense, but you can debate that in the comment section below. Obviously, I'd rather it not be, right? Like, as a consumer, I'd rather it always be 25. Another instance where this would be illegal, which I think should be illegal, is if they charge you different prices based on your browsing behavior and purchase history. Now, this is something that a lot of people notice when they're going to shop for airline tickets, hotel prices, things like that. If you have a history of looking up flights to Miami, looking up flights to Japan, or whatever the case might be, and then 3 weeks later you look up the price again, if those tracking cookies are still in your browser, they're going to be like, oh, hey, price went up 10%, you might as well buy it now. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that you are invested in going to this place. And the thing with travel is, a lot of times the reason you're going somewhere is because you have a constraint, right? You either only have a few days off and you can't change those days off, so you have to travel during that time, or you're going for an event, right? You're traveling for a wedding, a concert, or whatever the case might be, and so you're constrained by that. And so it's like, okay, well, you don't have the flexibility of changing the dates, so they know that, okay, 3 weeks have passed, they're still looking at flights for the same days, we can charge them more because their plans haven't changed, they're not going to change, boom, we get them for an extra 10-20%. Another thing that's legal is charging you more money based on your location or device type. So this is another thing where if you look up the price for an airline ticket in the United States versus in Mexico or in India or somewhere else, if you use a VPN, for example, a lot of people do this. If you didn't know, here's a little travel hack. Okay, you can actually VPN to another location and get a cheaper price for the exact same flight, right? Or it'll show you different prices for similar flights, things like that. I'll talk about device type in a second, but that is another one that I think is particularly insidious and should be illegal. Another thing that is legal, however, is loyalty status. Okay, so if you offer a new user discount, that's legal, right? It's kind of a marketing onboarding strategy. So if you have never shopped at Banana Republic before, they can offer you a first time 20% off coupon if you sign up for their mailing list or whatever. That's totally legal. Same thing with member pricing. So for example, Costco or Sam's Club, it's totally legal for them to offer a lower price for the same product that maybe Walmart sells. Or another example of that would be if you are a Banana Republic rewards member, you get an extra 10% off during the holidays. That's totally illegal. Also, another legal instance of this is time-based or algorithmic pricing. So the example of this would be Black Friday, right? So Black Friday, a game goes from $60 to $30, and then 3 days later it's back up to $60. You can't claim that it's illegal because it was literally just on sale, right? I mean, that's, it is what it is. So different people will pay different prices for the exact same product because of a time limited or time-based discount. Okay, but here's what is illegal, and this is where I raise my eyebrows at this particular PlayStation discount. You cannot change the price based on protected class discrimination, which we talked about earlier. So these are things like race, religion, gender, age, in some contexts, disability, nationality, things of that nature, right? So you can't walk in and be like, oh, okay, well, Christians will pay one price, Jewish people will pay another price, atheists will pay a third price, whatever the case is. That's illegal. Okay, you can't actually do that. I do have questions though, right? Like, I mean, okay, as a man, I will tell you, some bars and nightclubs will have a cover charge to get into the club, and sometimes some establishments may not charge women to get into the bar or the club or whatever, because it's a sausage fest in there, and you know, it's just better for business if you've got a bunch of women in your bar, right? I mean, it is what it is. That's what they're in the business for. They know that dudes are gonna come if there's a bunch of pretty women in there. Okay, men are simple creatures. We're kind of stupid. Doesn't mean you got a shot with any of them, but at least they're there, right? You can feel like less of a loser. But to me, I don't know, that sounds like discrimination based on a protected class. I don't know, right? I mean, hey, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what to tell you. But here's another instance where dynamic pricing may be illegal, and this could actually apply to PlayStation in this scenario. They are not allowed to use deceptive practices to vary the price based on customer. So what this means is if customers are misled into believing that pricing is fixed or equal. Okay, so in other words, if you log into the PlayStation store and you see the game is on sale for $20, and beneath that it says lowest price ever, purchased before November 5th, right? And then you log into your wife's account and it says $15, and beneath that it says lowest price ever if you buy before November 5th, right? Well, in that case, what you're saying to both customers is that this is the lowest price they've ever offered it at, right? But that is misleading because it's not true, because the guy who's seeing it for $20 is not seeing the lowest price ever. They're seeing it higher than the wife's account, right? So if we go back to this Reddit post here and we compare what is actually being offered, you'll see at the very bottom it says lowest price in last 30 days, $100. For the wife's account, it says the exact same thing. So technically, okay, and I think this is where the lawyers over at Sony and PlayStation are making their money, okay, I think technically this line down below is what makes it legal, okay, because they're showing the same lowest price on both of these. Technically they're not deceiving the husband, right? Because they're saying, hey, prior to this discount the lowest price was $100, and for the wife it's the exact same thing, because that's technically true, right? It was $100 for both of these people. But as a consumer, I do think that this is still misleading, because when you read this it says lowest price in the last 30 days, right? Now, I don't know about you, but if I see it's $20 and then I read save 80%, lowest price in the last 30 days, I'm going to assume like, oh, it's never been offered for less than this, right? But that's not true. The wife is getting it for 15. So again, I think technically this is probably legal, but I think it's misleading. I mean, like, what are we talking about? Everyone knows that this is misleading. Why would they even put the lowest price in the last 30 days here if they didn't think that that line alone would increase your incentive to buy it, right? What they're saying is like, hey, look, you know, before this it was $100, like it's never been this cheap before, right? Like, act now, right? Like, they're trying to do the whole FOMO thing, you know what I mean? They're trying to get you now, like, buy it right now. So I personally think that it's deceptive, but technically it probably isn't. Again, if you're a lawyer, you can let me know in the comment section below. Another illegal example of this is price fixing or collusion, competitors collaborating to artificially set prices. Okay, so again, if you need tires on your car and you know Jimmy's Auto Parts is selling a tire for $100, I don't know what tire, I've never bought tires in my life, I have no idea what they cost, but let's say the tire is $100, okay, and then Billy's down the street is selling it for $150, and they walk on over and they say, hey buddy, listen, hey, I know you're selling them for $100, but everyone's buying them at $150, so why don't we just both sell them for $150, and then we're both making more money, and then, you know, it's quid pro quo, I scratch your back, you scratch mine, maybe next week there's another sale on something and we figure out the price. All right, that's price fixing and collusion. In this instance, I don't think this applies here, right? I mean, unless this exact same thing was happening over on Xbox and on like Steam Steam, for example, which I don't think it is. And then finally, another instance of this being illegal is junk fee concealment. Okay, so some states like California in 2024 allegedly enforce transparency on added service fees. Kind of crazy that that is not the case for all states in the US and it's only for California. But anyway, it seems like this is probably legal unless somebody can prove that she is getting a lower price because she is a woman. If that were the case, then I do actually think that this would be illegal. I just don't know how we would even prove that without having access to Sony's discount algorithm. So anonymous, if you're watching, if you are able to access that information, I know you guys at some point used to shut down the PlayStation Network. I remember back on the PS3 y'all used to do that. If you could access this, I'm kidding, I'm not, just to be very clear, this is a joke. Okay, I am not condoning illegal behavior. I'm not encouraging it. I'm not hoping it happens, but if it did happen, maybe we could actually figure out if this is illegal.